So I surround myself with two important things in my life. They take up the most time and appreciation, and that is children and media. And I think as college students that are studying to become educators, you guys can agree that media, social medias, and children are a big passion in your life as well. And I want to introduce you to Dr. Dimitri Kostakis, and he is a professor at the University of Washington, and he works with children's cognitive development and how media affects that in a research lab in Seattle, actually. And so he performed at a TED Talk, a TEDx event, which is an independently run TED event, and he talked about children and media, which is kind of why I chose it, because those are important to me. And he specifically talked about the critical time period between the ages of 0 and 3, and he showed this brain growth over a lifespan chart, which you can see the steepness between newborn, 1 year old, and even newborn to 3 years old. A newborn's brain is 333 grams, and it grows, he said, in weight and knowledge to 999 grams, which is a big gap, and that's why it's such a critical time period. So in our brains, we are born with about 2,500 neurons and synapses, which neurons have little finger-like synapses that are trying to connect with other ones. And by the age of 3, there's potential for 15,000 synapses and connections. And you can think of that whenever you talk to a newborn and then you see a 3-year-old, that physical and mental change that they have is so rapid during those first 3 years. And so it is through early experiences that these connections are made. So I think our culture and research has shown that understimulation or neglect of these early experiences can negatively affect a child. The synapses that are trying to find other connections that happen only through these early experiences, you can use them or lose them. So if you don't make these connections at an early age, then they're lost. And so we all know, you've seen the CAT scans of a child that has been stimulated and had attention appropriately, and their brain activity is strong and moving, and then they'll show one of someone that's highly neglected, and there's dark areas and there's shadows where those connections haven't been made. And I think our culture has gone to the other end, where we want to, in fear of understimulating our children, we overstimulate them. And Dr. Kostakis showed a clip of baby Einstein's, for those of you who had seen it specifically. It was called Day in the Life of a Farm, or Farm Day, and it was a 20-second clip, and it had 7 scene changes, which is a scene change every 3 seconds, and it had 2 clips of live animals, and the rest were cartoons and cows and dancing and singing. And as adults, we try to make this cohesive narrative out of Baby Einstein, for those of you who have seen it, and you can't. It's like discombobulated, it's a lot going on, it's loud music, nothing like a day in the life on the farm. And that's the issue we have. These younger children between the ages of 0 and 3 are watching this as educational programming, and their little brains are making these connections with unrealistic reality that they're displaying them. And it's affecting their attention spans. So we're creating these children that are overstimulated, and we expect a child that has been raised on Baby Einsteins between the ages of 0 and 3 to go at the age of 5 to a farm for a field trip, and their attention spans are very short because they're expecting every 20 seconds for something new to happen. And for those of you that have been on a farm, you know, you spend an hour doing one activity, it's not as exciting, and there's not loud music, and there's no puppets dancing in your face. So he talked about an overstimulation hypothesis, and I'm going to read it so I don't say it wrong. He states that prolonged exposure to rapid image change during a critical period of brain development preconditions the mind to expect this high level of stimulation, which leads to inattention. And that's just what I said. So if they're watching these images of changing very fast, rapid paces, the pictures, the colors, the activity, and then we expect them to do something that's slower paced and more realistic, they're not going to want that. They want their brains making these connections that are more rapid, more chaotic, and discombobulated. So in contrast to Baby Einstein's, he showed a minute clip of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And I wish I showed it. It was so sweet. And it was a minute clip, and it was one scene, and it was him going to a restaurant with his neighbor, and he introduced you to the hostess, and the hostess slowly walked him to a table, and he explained what a menu was, and how a place was set, how you talk to your neighbor in front of you, how you put a napkin on your lap, and how you order food. And this sort of slow-paced reality, he jokes that it's like not even reality because it's so slow-paced, is the children are watching this and these connections are being made of this is real. So when they go to a restaurant and they're having to wait with mommy and the hostess is having to seat them, he tells them that sometimes there's a longer wait than he waited. That's a realistic expectation. Mr. Rogers is creating these realistic life experiences through media as he's walking you through, talking to you as if you're his neighbor. So he shows this graph, Dr. Kostakis, and it shows that the content viewed from the ages of 0 to 3 and the risk that it has on attention problems at a school-aged child. So educational programs like Mr. Rogers or other slow-paced educational programs, there's a 0% risk of attention problems. And then it shows that entertainment programs, which he described as Baby Einstein's, Powderpuff Girls, and I think SpongeBob, where the scene changes are colored and very fast and there's loud music, can increase the attention problems at a school age at 60%. And then he didn't show any violent programming, but it can increase the risk to over 100%, which is very scary. And so, in conclusion, I chose this TED Talk because, one, I love Dr. Kostakis, and media is something in our world that's not going away, and it's just how you can use it to benefit your children. And he talked more in his TED Talk about other research he did on mice and on actual families, and the benefit there is in slow-paced media, slow-paced educational television, real-time play, and sitting and reading with your child. And it talked about reading with a child between the ages of 0 and 3. If you have them sit in your lap for 30 minutes and read one book, that's completely different than whenever they're watching Baby Einstein's for 30 minutes and they're seeing millions of clips over there, passing past their eyes. And I think it's important as early educators because, and as future parents possibly, because we are going to be dealing with children that have been overstimulated and have low attention spans, and we need to work to benefit them and teach them the best way possible. And as well as when we have young children, these are my niece and nephew. Actually, my niece was born 2 weeks ago. And so working with them to give them, develop their brains to the best benefit that they can. And I want to leave you with the quote that he ended his TED Talk, and he said, "If we change the beginning of a story in children, we change the whole story." Thank you.